The boarding house on Polk Street had 7 rooms, and I kept 5 of them occupied through the summer of 1934, by the specific alchemy of reputation and price. Not the cheapest in Amarillo, not by a long way, but the cleanest, and the only one that served 2 meals a day included in the rate, which was the thing that kept working men. Working men need breakfast. They need to know there is supper at a fixed hour. They need clean sheets on a schedule, and a proprietress who does not ask personal questions and does not permit disorder in the common rooms. I had been providing these things for 2 years and 9 months, and I was good at it. And I did not think about whether I was happy doing it, because thinking about whether you are happy is a luxury that a mortgage and 7 rooms do not always permit. Thomas had built the house in 1929. He had been an optimist. This is the kindest word for a man who builds a 7-room boarding house in Amarillo, Texas, in the year that the stock market collapses. And the boarding house had been his idea and his project and his source of considerable satisfaction right up until the morning in March of 1932, when he sat down at the kitchen table after breakfast with his coffee and did not get up again. He was 34 years old. He had been a good man. I did not say this to anyone because saying it felt like placing him in the past tense in a way that I was not yet ready to do. But it was true. I had been 30 years old when Thomas died, and I had known 3 things. I could not afford to close the boarding house. I did not know how to do anything except run it. And the men currently renting the rooms needed breakfast in 4 hours. I had made the breakfast. I had continued making it every morning since. This is not a story about grief, though grief is the condition in which the story takes place. This is a story about October. He arrived on the 8th of October, 1934, on a Tuesday afternoon when I was at the front desk going through the accounts. The other boarders at the time were Garrett, a driller from Lubbock who smelled of oil and spoke rarely, Mitchell and his brother-in-law Price, both doing road work on the county highway, and old Sefton, who had been with me since the beginning, and whose occupation was listed in my book as retired, but who spent his days at a particular corner table in the Amarillo diner, and whose income I had never inquired about. The new boarder came in and stood at the desk, and he was tall and somewhat better dressed than the men I was used to seeing in that doorway. A gray wool suit jacket that was slightly too good for the doorway, but which he wore without self-consciousness. A white shirt open at the collar. Dark eyes that assessed the lobby the way I imagined an engineer assessed a structure. Systematically, quickly, without drama. "Mrs. Vance," he said. He had read the sign. "Yes," I said. "I need a room. I was told you run the best house on Polk Street." "I run the only house on Polk Street," I said. Something in his expression, not quite a smile, but the precursor of one. "That too," he said. "Will Garrett." I opened the book. "Rate is $4 a week. Breakfast at 7, supper at 6. No exceptions on the hours. No guests after 9. No disorder in the common rooms." I looked up. "Those are the terms." "Those are reasonable terms," he said. "Room 4 is available," I said. "Second floor, east facing. The window sticks in the cold, but it opens fully in the morning." "I'll take it," he said. I gave him the key and went back to the accounts, and that was the first conversation. He was, as I said, quieter than the others. Not unfriendly. He spoke at supper when spoken to, and he said good morning at breakfast with the consistency of a man for whom good manners are structural rather than situational, the way some men's are. But he did not fill silence with noise the way men in temporary rooms often do. The radio kept too loud, the unnecessary conversation, the performance of occupying a space without belonging to it. He occupied his space without performing it, which was unusual. The broken stair was the first thing. 3rd step from the bottom on the main staircase. I had known about it since August, had been meaning to address it, had not gotten to it because the addressing of it required tools and time I had allocated elsewhere. I came down one morning in November to find it repaired. Not patched, repaired. New wood fitted precisely, the grain running the right direction, the edges clean. I knew it had been him. None of the others had the inclination or the skill, and old Sefton's knees would not have allowed it. I went to room 4 after breakfast and knocked. He opened the door. He was in his shirt sleeves with the small leather notebook open in one hand, and he looked at me with the dark brown eyes that were always slightly amused. "The stair," I said. "The third step," he said. "It was going to go through eventually. I had the wood from the crate in the alley." "You should have asked me first," I said. "Would you have said yes?" I thought about it. "Yes," I said. "Then it comes to the same thing," he said. I looked at him for a moment. "I'll take it off this week's rate," I said. "You don't have to do that," he said. "I know," I said. I went back downstairs and noted it in the accounts, and did not think about the specific quality of a man who repairs things without being asked to, and does not mention it afterward. I thought about it for 3 days. The leaking pipe was December. The kitchen pipe beneath the sink that had been weeping slowly for 6 weeks, producing a pan I emptied every morning. A problem I had been deferring because plumbers in Amarillo in 1934 charged more than I wanted to spend on a slow leak. I came down early one morning and found the pan empty, and the pipe sealed with a fitting he had apparently sourced from somewhere and fitted in the night. I went upstairs and knocked. He opened the door. Earlier than the last time, he was already fully dressed, the gray suit jacket on, the notebook in his pocket. "The pipe," I said. "The fitting was 3 cents at the hardware on 6th, he said. "I'll add it to next week's board." "You'll do no such thing," I said. He looked at me with the dark brown eyes. "Mrs. Vance," he said. "It was 3 cents, I said, "and a pipe I should have fixed in October." "November," he said. "It started in November." "How long have you known about it?" "Since the 2nd week," he said. I looked at him. He looked back. He had the quality of looking that did not try to make itself something other than what it was. Straightforward and slightly amused, always, as if the world were interesting enough to find amusing. "Thank you," I said, "for the pipe." "You're welcome," he said, "for the pipe." The window that wouldn't close against the dust was January. Room 2, Garrett's room. Though Garrett had left in December for an oil job in Odessa, the window frame had warped in the summer heat and no longer seated properly, leaving a gap that the Texas winter was making its opinions known about. I had been stuffing a rag in the gap and calling it addressed. On a Thursday in January, I came past room 2 and the window was closed, properly closed, the frame planed down and reseated, the gap gone. I stood in the hallway outside room 2 for a moment. This was different from the stair and the pipe. The stair and the pipe had been practical necessities, things that needed doing and that he had done because he had the skill and because they needed doing. The room 2 window was Garrett's room. Garrett was gone. There was no one in room 2 who needed the window closed. He had fixed it because it needed fixing. I went to room 4. I knocked. He opened the door. The notebook was open in his left hand, a pencil behind his ear. He had been working at the small desk, I could see from the papers. "The window," I said. "Room 2. "The frame had warped," he said. "Another winter and it would have been expensive." I looked at him. "Will," I said. It was the first time I had used his name. Something in his expression shifted slightly. "Nora," he said. It was the first time he had used mine. We stood in the doorway of room 4 and looked at each other, and I had the specific discomfort of a woman who has been observing something for 3 months and has just had the observation confirmed as something more than observation. "Come to supper tonight," I said. It was what I said every evening. What was different was that by January, the other boarders were down to Mitchell, who was leaving at the end of the week for his family in San Antonio, and old Sefton, who ate in his room when the cold aggravated his knees. Supper had become, by degrees I had not entirely tracked, a meal for 2 at the kitchen table, rather than a communal meal in the dining room. "I'll be there at 6, he said. He was there at 5:50, which I had noticed was his habit, not early enough to impose, early enough to be there when the first things needed doing. He set the table without asking where things were, because he had been eating in this kitchen for 3 months and knew where things were. We ate supper. We talked about the accounts. He had been helping me with the quarterly figures since November, not because I had asked, but because he had seen me working on them one evening and had made a suggestion about the column organization that had saved me 40 minutes, and it had evolved from there. We talked about the Amarillo paper's report on the relief program. We talked about Mitchell leaving and whether the room would fill before spring. "Probably not before March," I said. "February is slow." "I know," he said. He was looking at his coffee cup. "I've been meaning to say something about February." I waited. "My contract in Amarillo is month to month," he said. "I've been here since October. There's work in Fort Worth, some repair work on the rail bridge that starts in March." He paused. "I've been deciding whether to take it." I looked at the table, at the kitchen around us, the window that didn't leak cold air anymore, the pipe that didn't drip, the staircase that didn't give, the ledger on the counter with the columns organized the way he had suggested. "And?" I said. "And I'm still deciding," he said. He looked up from the coffee cup, the dark brown eyes in the kitchen lamplight. "I've been here since October," he said again, as if the fact of it explained something, which it did, though neither of us had said what. "I haven't raised your rate," I said. "I know," he said. "I was going to," I said, "in December, when Garrett left and the occupancy dropped." I looked at the ledger. "I didn't." He was quiet. "The boarding house needs the income," I said. "The December rate should have gone up." "I know that too," he said. I looked at him across the table, at the gray suit jacket that was slightly too good for his current circumstances and that he wore with the quiet dignity of a man who has decided what he is not willing to give up, at the small scar at his left temple, at the notebook in his breast pocket that I had never asked about and that he had never offered to explain. "What's in the notebook?" I said. He reached into his breast pocket and took it out and set it on the table between us. It was filled with pencil drawings, structural drawings, the kind with measurements and proportions noted in the margins, but not bridges or buildings. Small things. The stair repair, sketched in cross-section, the grain direction noted, the pipe fitting with dimensions, the window frame repair, the plane angle marked, and others, things I had not known he had looked at. The north wall where the plaster had been cracking since summer. The back door that had been hanging wrong on its hinges for a year. I looked at the drawings for a long time. "You've been making a list," I said. "A plan," he said. "There's a difference." He paused. "A list is what needs doing. A plan is what needs doing in what order, and what each thing requires, and what fixing one thing means for the thing adjacent to it." I looked at the north wall drawing, at the back door drawing, at the careful notations in his precise engineer's hand. "How long have you been working on this?" I said. "Since November," he said, "when the pipe gave me a reason to look at the rest of the system." I closed the notebook and pushed it back toward him. I looked at the kitchen. "Will," I said. "Yes," he said. "I am not going to pretend I don't know what this means," I said. "The stair and the pipe and the window and the plan in the notebook. I am not going to pretend I don't know what it means that you've been in this house since October and the rate hasn't changed and supper has been at a table for two since January." I looked at him. "I'm not going to pretend." He was quiet. His hands were around the coffee cup and he was looking at me with the dark brown eyes. "2 years," I said. "Thomas has been gone 2 years. I have been running this house for 2 years, and I have not thought about anything except running it, and that has been the correct way to live, and I have no complaints about it." I paused. "I'm telling you this because the alternative is for both of us to continue in this arrangement, and for February to end and March to come, and for the Fort Worth Bridge to be the reason this stops before it starts. And I'm not willing to do it that way." He set down his coffee cup. He looked at the table and then at me. "I turned down the Fort Worth Bridge," he said, 2 weeks ago. I looked at him. "I told the contractor I had another commitment," he said, "in Amarillo." He paused. The north wall is going to need attention before spring. The back door has been hanging wrong on the right hinge since at least last summer. And if I had to guess, I would say the frame has shifted, and the door needs to come off entirely and the frame be reset. He looked at the notebook. That is a 2-day job at minimum. And after the door, I said. There are 11 more items in the notebook, he said. I looked at the man across my kitchen table, at the gray suit jacket and the dark brown eyes, and the notebook with its careful drawings, and the scar at his temple, and the Oxford shoes that had been resoled twice and shined carefully, and the white shirt open at the collar in my kitchen at 6:15 in the evening in February 1935. Will, I said. Yes, he said. Stay for the door, I said. He looked at me for a long moment. Something in his expression that was not quite the amused quality but was related to it, something warmer and more specific, and without the slight distance that the amusement usually kept. I'll stay for the door, he said. We both understood that we were not talking about the door. He fixed the door in March. It took 3 days because the frame had shifted worse than he had estimated and required more work than the notebook had specified, which was how I learned that Will Garrett's plans accounted for the problems he could see and adjusted for the ones he found when he started looking. He was methodical and unhurried, and he worked away. He did everything, precisely, with full attention, without making a production of it. I brought him coffee in the mornings, and we talked while he worked, which was how we talked best, about something else, the conversation running alongside the work rather than being the work. He told me about Fort Worth and the firm and what it had been like to build something and then watch the building stop. I told him about Thomas, not the grief of it, which I kept private, but Thomas himself, who he had been, the optimism, the boarding house idea, the coffee at the kitchen table on a Tuesday morning. Will listened the way he did everything, completely. The door was done on a Wednesday in the second week of March. He hung it and tested it, and it swung true and seated clean and latched properly, and he stepped back and looked at it with the expression of a man for whom a properly hung door is a small, specific satisfaction. I stood beside him and looked at the door. 11 more, I said. 10 now, he said. The south bedroom window was also in the notebook. I addressed it last week. I looked at him. You didn't mention the south bedroom window. You were busy with the quarterly accounts, he said. It didn't seem necessary to interrupt. I looked at the properly hung door, at the kitchen behind me where supper would be ready in an hour. At the boarding house around us, 7 rooms, 1 occupied, 1 proprietress, 1 man who had arrived in October with a leather notebook and had been making a plan since November. Will, I said. Nora, he said. I have 10 items left in the plan, I said. That is a considerable amount of work. It is, he said. It would take, I calculated, the rest of the spring at a reasonable pace. At least, he said. And after the 10 items, I said, there will be other things. There are always other things with a house this age. There always are, he said. I looked at him, at the dark brown eyes in the March morning light, at the notebook in his breast pocket, at this man who had turned down a bridge in Fort Worth for a door in Amarillo. Stay, I said. Not for the door, not for the 10 items in the notebook. I said it the way you say the true thing when you have decided to stop saying the other thing in its place. He looked at me for a long moment. Yes, he said, the same way. I went to start supper. He went to look at the next item in the notebook, which was the north wall. I could hear him in the hallway making his notes in the precise, careful hand, the pencil moving, the notebook filling with what needed doing and in what order and what each thing required. The supper was at 6. The table was set for 2. It had been set for 2 since January. It would be set for 2 tomorrow. That is enough. That is everything.